Hello everybody, welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I'm back. I have an interesting video for you. Today I want to share with you a very simple Bannock recipe that only takes a few ingredients. So we're going to start with the first ingredient. This is 1 cup of flour. I'm just going to put that in there. The next thing that we're going to need is baking powder, 1 teaspoon. So there you see we have 1 teaspoon right there, baking powder. And then I like to make sure that it's a level teaspoon, you see. So I'm going to put that in there. The third thing that we need is 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Hopefully you can read that. That's 1/4 of a teaspoon. So just regular table salt. I just shake it a little bit and try to get it as level as I can. And now what we want to do is we want to mix all of these dry ingredients. I'm going to use the bottom of my spoon here. Just want to mix these dry ingredients up. Nothing too crazy, folks. Just want to get them nice and mixed. Now we need a couple more things. Water, 1/4 of a cup of water, approximately. And this next part is optional. You do not have to have this, but I like to put this in when I can. Sometimes I make it with and sometimes I make it without. And that is 1 tablespoon of olive oil. You can use vegetable oil, you can use tallow, you can use lard, anything, some sort of lubricant. And what this does is this will make the dough not stick to the pan if we fry it or if we bake it. Again, this is an optional ingredient. At this point, we're just going to stir the mix up. Just like this, nothing too crazy. It's going to be very dry in the beginning. Once we start getting that water and everything starts grabbing together, then we'll have plenty of dough. Just takes it a little bit of time to get it all put together. I like to scrape around the outside edge of the bowl. Make sure I'm getting all the moisture into it. If you're out in the field and you have clean hands, obviously you could use your hands to mix this dough. This is a very primitive dough. Been around a long time. Now you can see here that 1/4 of a cup of water was not quite enough, so we're going to just dazzle in a little bit of water, not too much, just a little tiny bit. That might have been like half a teaspoon or something, because we have to make the dough based on consistency, how it feels. Okay, so it's still looking like it's a bit dry. Let's go a little more water. I always put the water in small amounts. I never put like a bunch of water, because once you make it too runny, then it's too runny. Then you got to add flour and everything else to thicken it back up. So I try to make it count the first time I put the water in. So now you can see that we're starting to get a doughy type stuff here. Now I'm going to start here very soon I'm going to put my hands in here. Once you can see that there's not really any dry stuff. Once you see like it's one piece, you know, it's all stuck together, that's when I'll start introducing my hands. So I'll just kind of take what's off of this spoon, and I'll start introducing my hand here into the dough. I'm going to kind of mix it in. It looks like I need just a tiny bit, like literally maybe a couple of drops. Just a little bit, just enough to make it sticky enough to pick up the rest of that stuff that's in there. So you see how when you're looking at my bowl, you look at it, there's nothing stuck to the sides of the bowl. If you have any flour or anything left in the bowl, just kind of mop it up, I guess. And this is how you make your Bannock dough. Now let's introduce that second hand. We're going to start working this dough. You want the dough to a consistency where it's not going to stick to everything. It kind of has like a kind of a thick feeling to it, almost like a fry bread or a sopapilla type bread dough, like a pizza crust kind of dough. Needs just a tiny bit more water, maybe 1 or 2 drops. So I'm just going to drop that in the bowl. Get it in there. And believe me, it will suck in that water. This thing is like a big sponge. So I'm just going to kind of knead that water into the dough. And that's what we want. We want a good dough. Now from here, the thickness of the dough, when you get ready to cook it, there's a couple ways of cooking it. I'll show here in a minute. One of the ways that's very popular when you're out in the field is to fry it. You know, you can put it on a pan or something like that. You can cut it into, like, you can make little balls. But the main thing that I want to get at is you don't want it to be too thick. The thickest that I generally run my Bannock is 3/4 of an inch thick. I don't usually run it any thicker than that, but this thickness right here is about between 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 inch thick. And that I can put in my frying pan and fry these babies up on a medium heat over a fire. And the reason I choose this thickness is because if it's any thicker than that, the Bannock will burn by the time it's done in the middle. So to avoid that, I just make them a little thinner so it cooks very evenly. Same thing with the oven. On the oven, I cook it at 350 degrees for approximately 25 minutes. The cool thing about Bannock, being such an old primitive dough, is if you have a fire, and obviously you have a fire pit, you have rocks going around the fire, you can set this dough on the rocks that circle around your fire, and the heat from the flames will bake your Bannock over those rocks. So it'll be kind of like frying it, but it'll kind of be like baking it almost, because you have that radiation type of heat coming off of that fire. So you can see right here that I'm using my bowl kind of as a mold. This bowl is the same bowl I generally use, but what this does is this gives me the nice round look that I like to have in my Bannock. Gives me something to push down and kind of mold against to get the right thickness, and then when I'm done I just peel it out. And this is about 1/2 inch thick, and I'll lay this on my pan, on my cookie sheet, and that baby goes right in the oven. So that's how you make the Bannock dough. Another option when it comes to making this dough is when if you're going to be going on a trip and you want to take dough with you, what I do is I take these Ziploc bags and I put all the dry ingredients in the bag. Okay, so you have your flour, you've got your baking powder, you've got your salt. So the only thing you need to add is the water. And if you have olive oil or something available, some sort of oil, then you can add that. Now there's plenty of times when I've went out to the woods and I've taken a mix like this and did not have any oil, and it still works out just fine. One of the popular things that you could also do with Bannock, if you're going to be over a campfire, is you can take the Bannock and you can put it in, roll it into like a snake, and then you wrap it around a stick, and then you could hang that stick over the fire. Another common thing that's kind of cool is if you can stick a hot dog over your stick and then put the Bannock over the hot dog and then hang that whole thing over the fire. So those are a few options when it comes to Bannock. Now I'm going to set this on the cookie sheet and I'm going to get this in the oven. This one has been in the oven at 350 degrees. It's been in there about 25 minutes. So what I want to do to check it is, I'm just like a lot of breads, I want to stick a toothpick in there and see that it comes out dry. You can see the texture of this Bannock is very almost like a pizza crust. See the bottom? And that's what this baked Bannock looks like. It's really hot right now. So you can break it open and it has the texture of almost like a pizza crust. And it's very tasty. Here's another loaf of Bannock that just finished. And what I did with this one is I added 1 ounce of raisins. Now for those of you who might not know how much 1 ounce is, it's really simple because most of your standard small snack sizes of raisins are 1 ounce. So let's take a look at that. Look at that, doesn't that look beautiful? Beautiful texture, beautiful color. And so now we have a Bannock that's got raisins in it. It's really hot right now. I'm going to break this thing in half here real quick, kind of like I did on the last one. There, you see. You can also add cinnamon, any kind of dried fruit. Okay, I'm in the process of making some Bannock. You can see the consistency of it. I just want it to, it's normal, from what I understand, it's normal to look a little bit burnt. So that's what I've got. I haven't flipped them all yet, but just that one. By the time they get cooked, they have like a little bit of a burnt look to them. And I made them about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick. Let's take a look one more time. It's a very ancient form of bread. This recipe was real simple. This is a very ancient type of bread. It's not uncommon to see those dark looks to it. Like even that one's kind of burnt. That's actually a common thing when it comes to Bannock. Here they are, a little bit burnt on the back side. We're setting them on a plate and we're putting a little bit of butter on them. And I didn't mention it earlier in the video, but I had the heat for this pan, I had it on medium temperature. So it wasn't on hot, it wasn't on cool, it was on a medium temperature.